Captain Deho stared at the empty space ahead of his ship. The stars looked the same as they had for the past 3 months. His patrol route took him through the quiet edge of Valerian space where nothing interesting ever happened. He liked it that way. After 20 years of service, he preferred boring patrols to dangerous missions. The bridge of his science vessel Star Whisper was calm and peaceful. His crew of 12 ran their daily checks without any excitement. Dr. Minji worked at her station, studying samples from their last planet visit. Communications Officer Hyunwoo listened to the usual chatter between trading ships. Everything was normal in their small corner of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had kept peace for over 3,000 years. 3 powerful species ruled different parts of space. The Valerians were smart and loved technology. They built the best computers and fastest ships. The Netherians could read minds and move things without touching them. The Korathans were strong fighters with huge armies. Together, they made sure smaller species stayed safe and trade flowed freely. Deho remembered learning about the Great Peace in school. Before the Council, wars had torn apart whole star systems. Billions died fighting over resources and territory. Now disputes went to the Council for fair judgment. Pirates were rare. Most species lived comfortable lives under the protection of the 3 powers. His thoughts were broken by a sharp beep from the sensor station. Anson Gimmon looked confused as he checked his readings twice. "Captain, I'm getting something strange. There's a massive energy spike about 50,000 kilometers ahead." Deho walked over to look at the display. The sensors showed empty space, but the energy readings were off the charts. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensors. Maybe we have a malfunction." Gimon's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "All systems check out fine, sir. The readings are real. Something big is about to happen out there." Dr. Minji looked up from her work. "Captain, those energy levels are impossible. Nothing we know about could generate that much power without a star or black hole." Before Deho could respond, space itself seemed to tear open in front of them. A swirling vortex of dark energy appeared where moments before there had been nothing. The ship's alarm started screaming as massive gravitational waves hit their hull. The lights flickered as their power system struggled to compensate. "All stop," Deho shouted. "Back us away from that thing." The pilot's hands shook as he reversed their engines. The Star Whisper slowly moved backward while the crew watched the impossible sight ahead. The dark vortex was growing larger and something was coming through it. A ship emerged from the tear in space. But calling it a ship seemed wrong. It was a monster made of metal and weapons. The vessel was easily 3 times longer than a Korathan dreadnought, the largest warships in the galaxy. Its dark hull absorbed their scanner beams like a hungry beast swallowing light. The design was unlike anything in their databases. Sharp angles cut through space like a knife. Weapon ports covered every surface. More guns than some entire fleets carried. Strange energy patterns flowed across its armor like lightning trapped in metal. It looked built for one purpose: destruction. "Sweet spirits of space," whispered Hyunwoo. "What is that thing?" Deho's training kicked in despite his shock. "Send an emergency message to Council Command. Priority Alpha. Unknown vessel of massive size has appeared in Sector 7. Request immediate assistance." Dr. Minji was frantically scanning the alien ship. "Captain, the metal composition is unknown. The energy signatures don't match any known technology. It's like this ship was built using completely different science." The massive vessel hung in space, silent and motionless. Its dark presence seemed to make the stars themselves dim. No running lights showed along its hull. No communication signals reached out to them. It simply existed like a nightmare made real. Hyunwoo tried every frequency he knew. "Unknown vessel, this is the Valerian science ship Star Whisper. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." He waited, then tried again in the common trade language. Still nothing. Light years away, Admiral Soman of the Korathan Defense Force received Deho's emergency transmission. Her scarred face turned grim as she read the report. In 40 years of military service, she had never seen anything that matched this description. Her war instincts told her this was no peaceful explorer. "Signal the fleet," she ordered her communications officer. "All ships to battle alert status 2. Set course for Sector 7, maximum speed." Her aide, Commander Jinwoo, looked concerned. "Admiral, should we notify the Council first? This could be a diplomatic situation." Soman's laugh was cold and hard. "Diplomat ships don't carry enough weapons to glass a planet, Commander. Whatever that thing is, it didn't come here to trade recipes." Back on the Star Whisper, the crew continued their careful observations. The alien vessel showed no signs of movement, but its mere presence felt threatening. Energy readings spiked randomly across its hull, as if massive systems were charging and discharging inside. Dr. Minji made a disturbing discovery.
Captain, the ship's mass readings keep changing.
It's like the vessel exists in multiple dimensions at once. Our sensors can't get a stable reading on its actual size. Deho felt a chill run down his spine. He had served during the last border conflict with the Netherians. He had seen psychic warriors tear apart enemy minds. He had watched Korathan battle cruisers reduce asteroids to dust. But nothing in his experience compared to the wrongness of the ship floating before them. The peaceful galaxy he knew was built on understanding. The three powers might compete, but they all followed the same basic rules of physics. This ship seemed to mock those rules. It existed where it should not exist, using technology that should not work. "Sir," Gimmon called out, "I'm detecting similar energy patterns in deep space, faint but growing stronger." Deho's blood went cold. "How many?" "At least 6 signatures, possibly more. They're appearing all across this sector." The captain realized with growing horror that they were not looking at one impossible ship. They were seeing the beginning of an invasion by something that could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. The careful balance that had kept peace in the galaxy for 3,000 years was about to be tested by an enemy that played by completely different rules. He looked at his small science vessel and its crew of 12 peaceful researchers. They were about to witness the beginning of something that would change everything they thought they knew about their safe, ordered universe. The council chamber had never seen such panic. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great hall, their voices creating a storm of worry and fear. The emergency session had been called within hours of the first sighting reports. Now, as more ships appeared across the galaxy, the comfortable order of 3,000 years was cracking. Counselor Jinho stood at the Valerian podium, his blue skin pale with stress. The holographic display behind him showed tactical reports from 12 different sectors. Each red dot represented one of the mysterious vessels. "Honored colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation. These ships appear to use technology completely unknown to our science." War Chief Kyungmin slammed her massive fist on the Korathan table. Her species were built for battle, standing nearly 3 meters tall with natural armor plating. Unknown technology means unknown threat. My fleets are moving to intercept, but we need to act quickly before more of these ghost ships appear. The Netherian representative, Elder Seung-ho, spoke without moving his lips. His words appeared directly in everyone's minds, as was their way. "The ships resist our psychic probes. Their crews, if they have crews, are shielded from our sight. This suggests advanced mental defenses." In the observer section, Ambassador Neon sat quietly among the representatives of smaller species. Earth was still considered a developing world by council standards. Humans had only joined 50 years ago, and most council members barely remembered they existed. Their technology was centuries behind the major powers. Their military was laughable compared to even minor species. Neon watched the debate with careful eyes. She was young for an ambassador, only 35, but she had learned to listen more than she spoke in council meetings. The major powers made decisions, and smaller species like humanity simply followed along. "The real question," continued Jinho, "is where these ships came from. Our deepest space sensors detected no approach. They simply appeared from nothing." Dr. Minji's report from the Star Whisper played on the main screen. Her recorded voice explained the impossible readings, the unknown metals, the energy patterns that defied physics. Several council members shifted uncomfortably as the evidence mounted. Counselor Junho from the Valerian Science Division looked troubled. "If these vessels can appear anywhere without warning, no system in the galaxy is safe. Our entire defense strategy assumes we can detect enemies approaching through hyperspace." A junior aide rushed to War Chief Kyungmin's side and whispered urgently in her ear. Her expression grew darker as she listened. "Honored Council, I have just received word that 3 more fleets of unknown vessels have appeared near our border worlds. They maintain position but do not respond to our communications." Elder Seung-ho's mental voice carried worry. "Our psychic networks report the same from Netherian space. The ships wait, watching as if studying us." The council chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Species that had lived in peace for millennia suddenly faced the possibility of invasion by an enemy they could not understand or predict. Panic began to spread as representatives demanded protection for their homeworlds. Ambassador Neon felt her communication device vibrate with an encrypted message. She glanced at the display and her breath caught. The message was from Admiral Kang of Earth Defense Command. Package delivered. Await signal. She kept her expression neutral, but her heart raced. For 50 years, humanity had played the part of grateful junior partners in galactic civilization. They had accepted protection, traded their resources for advanced technology, and endured the condescending attitudes of species that saw them as primitive newcomers. But humanity had also been watching and learning. Every piece of technology shared with Earth had been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. In hidden shipyards beyond the outer rim, human engineers had been building something the galaxy would never expect. The first communication from the alien vessels came 12 hours into the emergency session. Hyunwoo aboard the Star Whisper received the transmission first, his equipment being closest to the original contact ship. The voice that came through the speakers was calm, controlled, and spoke perfect galactic standard. "This is Captain Taehyun of the Earth Defense Vessel Retribution. We come seeking those who have wronged humanity." The council chamber fell completely silent. Every representative stared at the communication display in shock. Earth, the primitive world with barely functioning space technology, the species that needed protection just to maintain basic trade routes? Counselor Jinho's voice cracked as he spoke. "Earth Defense Vessel? Ambassador Nayeon, can you explain this?" All eyes turned to the human representative. Nayeon stood slowly, her movements deliberate and calm. "Counselor Jinho, I believe Captain Taehyun wishes to address the council directly. With your permission, I will establish communication." War Chief Kyungmin's roar echoed through the chamber. "Earth has no deep space capability. Their most advanced ships can barely reach their own moon. This is impossible." Elder Sungho's mental probe reached toward Nayeon, seeking to read her thoughts. But instead of the open human mind he expected, he encountered barriers stronger than anything he had ever felt. The woman's mental defenses were like walls of steel, completely impenetrable. "Honored Council," Nayeon said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Humanity requests permission to address this assembly regarding our current actions in galactic space." Counselor Junho frantically accessed Earth's protection files. What he found made no sense. According to every record, Earth's most advanced warship was a converted cargo hauler with basic defensive weapons. Their space navy consisted of 12 patrol boats designed for asteroid mining security. Yet somehow, these primitive humans had produced vessels that could appear anywhere in the galaxy, using completely unknown technology, ships that carried enough firepower to make even Korathan battlecruisers look like toys. Captain Taehyun's voice came through the speakers again. "Council members, humanity has observed your treatment of developing species for 50 years. We have seen the restrictions placed on our growth, the technology denied to us, the condescending attitudes of those who see themselves as our superiors." The chamber erupted in angry voices as representatives tried to defend their policies, but Taehyun's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "For 5 decades, Earth has been patient. We have played the role you assigned us. Grateful primitives happy to accept your protection and guidance. But humanity has been busy during those years. We have been learning, building, and preparing." Admiral Summon's face appeared on the tactical display from her flagship. "Unknown Earth vessel, you are in violation of approximately 47 Council regulations regarding unauthorized military development. Stand down immediately." Taehyun's laugh was cold and dangerous. "Admiral, Earth withdrew from Council protection protocols 18 hours ago. We are no longer bound by your regulations, and I suggest you check your sensors before making threats you cannot back up." The tactical display updated with new readings from Admiral Summon's fleet. Her expression changed from anger to shock as the numbers appeared. The single Earth vessel was generating energy signatures that exceeded her entire battle group. Nayeon stepped forward to the speaking platform. "Honored Council, humanity wishes to renegotiate our relationship with galactic civilization. We believe it is time for Earth to take its proper place as an equal partner, rather than a protected dependent." The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. If Earth could produce such vessels in secret, what else had they been hiding? How many other primitive species might have capabilities beyond Council knowledge? War Chief Kyungmin was the first to recover from the shock. "You dare threaten the Council that has protected you for 50 years? Captain Taehyun's voice carried no emotion. We threaten no one who has treated us fairly, but those who have wronged humanity will answer for their actions. You have 3 days to prepare your response." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The balance of power that had maintained peace for 3 millennia had just been shattered by a species most members had forgotten existed. Ambassador. Nyan looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had always seen humanity as inferior. Now, for the first time in 50 years, she saw something new in their eyes: fear. Ambassador Nayan's private quarters had never felt so important. The secure communication link to the Retribution hummed with encrypted signals that even Council intelligence could not break. She looked at Captain Taehyun's face on her screen and saw the determination of a man who had waited his entire life for this moment. "Captain, the Council is in chaos," she reported. They never imagined Earth could develop such capabilities.
How many ships do we have ready?
Taehyun's smile was grim. 47 vessels of the Retribution class, with 12 more completing construction each month. Admiral Kang sends his regards and wants you to know that Phase 1 is complete. Nayeon felt a surge of pride. For 20 years, she had played the part of a helpless diplomat from a backward world. She had endured insults, dismissive attitudes, and outright mockery from species that considered humans barely above animals. But every slight, every restriction, every condescending comment had been carefully recorded and remembered. The truth was far more complex than the Council could imagine. Earth's apparent primitive status had been a carefully maintained deception, spanning 2 generations. While Council observers saw struggling human colonies and outdated technology, the real work was happening in hidden shipyards beyond Neptune's orbit. "Tell me about the breakthrough," Nayeon requested. "The Council scientists will want technical details." Chief Engineer Ji-won appeared on the screen beside Taehyun. Her face was marked with the exhaustion of someone who had spent 15 years solving impossible problems. "Ambassador, it started with the ruins we found on Titan in 2387. The previous civilization, we call them the Architects, had technology that worked completely differently from current galactic science. The discovery had changed everything. While mining operations on Saturn's largest moon, human workers had uncovered structures that predated the Council by millions of years. The ruins contained technology based on manipulating space itself rather than traveling through it. The Architects could fold space," Ji-won continued. "Instead of flying from point A to point B, they made point A and point B occupy the same location. Our scientists spent 40 years figuring out how to replicate even basic versions of their technology." Captain Taehyun took over the explanation. "The Council races all use hyperspace drives. They enter an alternate dimension, travel faster than light, then emerge back into normal space. It's predictable and detectable. Our ships don't use hyperspace at all." Nayeon understood the implications. Every defense system in the galaxy was designed to detect hyperspace signatures. Weapons were positioned to guard jump points. Fleets could be tracked across vast distances by following their hyperspace wake. But Earth's ships simply appeared wherever they wanted to be. "The energy requirements must be enormous," she said. Engineer Ji-won's tired smile showed a hint of pride. "That's where human engineering proved superior to architect technology. They used massive installations that could only fold space over short distances. We miniaturized the technology and made it ship-portable. A single Retribution-class vessel can appear anywhere in the galaxy." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent signal from the bridge. Captain Sunho of the Valerian Second Fleet was attempting to surround the Retribution with his squadron. 12 advanced warships moved into attack formation around the lone Earth vessel. "Captain Taehyun," came Sunho's transmission, "you are ordered to surrender for questioning regarding illegal military development. Do not force us to take aggressive action." Taehyun's response was calm and professional. "Captain Sunho, Earth appreciates your concern, but we must decline your invitation. Please maintain your distance for your own safety." On the tactical display, Nayeon could see the Valerian ships closing in. Each vessel was a masterpiece of galactic engineering, armed with the most advanced weapons the Council could produce. Against any normal target, Sunho's squadron could destroy entire planets. "Sir," called Tactical Officer Yoonji from Sunho's flagship, "the Earth vessel's weapon systems are powering up. Energy readings are impossible. No ship that size should be able to generate such power." Sunho studied the displays in growing concern. His 12 ships together could not match the energy output of the single human vessel. All ships withdraw to safe distance. Do not engage unless fired upon. But it was too late for caution. Captain Tae-hyun had received his orders from Earth Defense Command. The demonstration was about to begin. Captain Sun-ho, Tae-hyun's voice carried a note of regret. I'm sorry, but Earth requires a demonstration of our capabilities. Please evacuate any non-essential personnel. The Retribution's main weapon charged with a sound like reality tearing apart. Chief Gunner Minho had trained for 5 years to operate systems that violated every known law of physics. The weapon did not fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it reached across space and convinced matter that it no longer wanted to exist. The Valerian flagship simply stopped being there. One moment, Captain Sun-ho's ship was a gleaming example of advanced engineering. The next moment, there was empty space where it used to be. No explosion, no debris, no energy release. The ship and its crew of 300 simply ceased to exist. The remaining 11 Valerian vessels fled in panic. Their sensors could not explain what had happened. Matter did not simply vanish. Energy had to go somewhere. But the Retribution had used technology that treated the universe more like a computer program than a physical system. Message delivered, reported Minho with professional satisfaction. Back in her quarters, Ambassador Naeon watched the tactical display with mixed emotions. She had known this day would come, but seeing the reality was still shocking. Earth had just demonstrated weapons that could delete enemies from existence without even firing recognizable shots. The Council will mobilize everything they have, she warned. Tae-hyun, let them, the captain replied. Admiral Soman is already gathering the combined fleet. Over 200 ships representing the finest military technology in the galaxy. It will be an impressive sight. Engineer Ji-won looked tired but determined. Ambassador, our weapons work by convincing space itself that our targets shouldn't exist there. Council shields defend against energy and matter. They have no defense against weapons that edit reality. The hidden truth was more devastating than the Council could comprehend. While they had spent millennia perfecting conventional technology, humanity had taken a completely different path. Earth ships did not fight according to galactic rules because they had discovered that the rules could be changed. There's something else, Tae-hyun added quietly. The architects left records. They tried to warn future civilizations about the Council species. According to their data, the Valerians, Netherians, and Korathons were not the galaxy's first great powers. They were the species that destroyed the previous civilization. Naeon felt cold despite her quarters' warmth. The Council races wiped out the architects? The evidence suggests a coordinated attack 3 million years ago, Ji-won confirmed. The architects were peaceful, advanced beyond anything we can imagine. But they were destroyed by 3 younger species working together, species that then built their own empire on the ruins. The implications were staggering. The Council's 3,000-year peace was not their first period of galactic dominance. They had done this before, crushing any civilization that might threaten their control. Earth had accidentally discovered the evidence of their ancient crime. That's why they suppressed developing species, Naeon realized. They're afraid someone will grow strong enough to challenge them again. Captain Tae-hyun nodded grimly. For 50 years, they've limited our technology and restricted our growth. They thought they could keep humanity weak forever. They never imagined we would find the architect ruins and learn the truth about galactic history. The communication ended, leaving Naeon alone with the weight of knowledge. Earth was not just fighting for equality. They were fighting against a system that had maintained power through genocide and oppression for millions of years. Outside her window, she could see Council ships gathering for the coming battle. Admiral Soman's mighty fleet would represent everything the 3 powers could bring to bear. But they would be fighting an enemy that had learned to bend the universe itself to their will. The balance of power was not just shifting, it was about to be completely rewritten by a species that refused to accept their assigned place in the cosmic order. The emergency assembly of the Galactic Council had never seen such a gathering. Representatives from over 300 species filled the great chamber, but the mood was completely different from any previous meeting. For the first time in 3 millennia, the 3 major powers sat as equals rather than rulers. Ambassador Naeon walked through the corridors that had once made her feel small and insignificant. Now the same beings who had dismissed her as a primitive delegate stepped aside respectfully as she passed. The battle reports had spread throughout the galaxy within hours. Everyone knew that humanity had single-handedly destroyed the largest military fleet ever assembled. The massive display screens showed footage from the battle that military analysts still could not explain. Ships vanishing without explosions, weapons that convinced matter to change its basic properties, and movement that ignored every known law of physics. The Council's technological superiority had been revealed as an illusion. Counselor Jinho's voice shook as he called the assembly to order. His species had built their reputation on advanced science, but human technology made Valerian achievements look like stone tools. We gather today to address the new reality of galactic civilization. Captain Taehyun entered the chamber wearing a simple Earth Defense Force uniform. Behind him walked his senior officers, Tactical Officer Seung-hwan, Medical Officer Yuna, and Chief Engineer Ji-won. They moved with the quiet confidence of people who had proven their strength and no longer needed to demonstrate it. The sight of humans walking freely through the council chambers sent shockwaves through the assembly. These were the primitives who had needed protection just days earlier. Now they strode like conquerors through halls where they had once been barely tolerated guests. War Chief Kyungmin struggled to maintain her composure as she looked at the beings who had destroyed her fleets. Her species respected strength above all else, and humanity had demonstrated power beyond her understanding. Captain Taehyun, what are your terms? Taehyun's response was calm and measured. The Galactic Council will be restructured as a true democracy, where all species have equal voice regardless of military or technological power. Technology sharing will be mutual and open. No species will be restricted in their development or growth. Elder Seung-ho's mental voice carried disbelief. You would dismantle 3,000 years of stable government for an untested system? We would replace 3,000 years of oppression with genuine peace, Nayeon replied, taking her place beside Taehyun. The Council's stability was built on keeping younger species weak and dependent. Dr. Wu Jin, Earth's lead scientist, stepped forward with a datapad containing information that would shock the galaxy. Honored representatives, we have discovered evidence of the Council's previous actions. The architect civilization that existed before your rise to power was not destroyed by natural disaster or internal conflict. The chamber fell silent as holographic displays showed the ruins on Titan and the data extracted from architect computers. The evidence was undeniable. 3 million years ago, the Valerians, Netherians, and Korathans had worked together to destroy a peaceful civilization that had achieved technology beyond their current understanding. The architects tried to guide and uplift younger species, Wu Jin continued. The response from your ancestors was total war and genocide. You built your empire on the graves of beings who offered you wisdom and knowledge. Counselor Junho's face went pale as the implications hit him. This cannot be true. Our histories speak of natural expansion into empty space. Your histories were written by the victors, Captain Taehyun replied. The architects left records in quantum storage that your ancestors never found. They documented everything, including their attempts to make peace, even as your fleets destroyed their worlds. Admiral Jamin of the newly formed Earth Defense Force appeared on the communication screens from his flagship orbiting Earth. Behind him, the viewport showed construction yards where dozens of new ships were being built. The galaxy will have a choice. Accept the new democratic order, or face the consequences of continued oppression. The threat was clear but not aggressive. Earth had demonstrated their capabilities and now offered a path forward. But the underlying message was unmistakable. The age of the three powers was ending whether they cooperated or not. Captain Yeji of the surviving Netherian fleet spoke hesitantly. Your technology, how did you develop such capabilities so quickly? Engineer Ji-won smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. We had help from teachers your species killed millions of years ago. The architects left detailed instructions for civilizations that might discover their ruins. They hoped someone would eventually carry on their work. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Humanity had not just developed superior technology. They had inherited the knowledge of the galaxy's most advanced previous civilization. Earth was not just another emerging power, but the chosen inheritors of a legacy 3 million years in the making. Smaller species began speaking up for the first time in generations. The Zalari representative, whose people had been restricted to a single star system for centuries, stood with visible emotion. Does this mean we can finally explore beyond our borders? All species will have the freedom to grow and develop according to their own choices, Nyan confirmed. No more quotas on population, restrictions on technology, or limitations on territorial expansion. The chamber erupted as hundreds of species realized that their long period of enforced stagnation was ending. Many had forgotten what it felt like to dream of possibilities beyond their assigned roles in the Council's rigid hierarchy. Admiral Soman, attending via hologram from her damaged flagship, spoke with the honesty of someone who had seen her worldview shattered. Captain Taehyun, my species has known only war and conquest for thousands of years. How do we find our place in this new order? The same way humanity did, Taehyun replied. By learning, growing, and accepting that strength comes from cooperation rather than domination. The Korathans have valuable skills that can benefit everyone if applied to construction instead of destruction. Elder Sungho's mental voice was quiet and thoughtful. Our psychic abilities have been used to control and manipulate for too long. Perhaps it is time to use them for communication and understanding instead. The negotiations continued for 3 days as the framework for a new galactic government took shape. The council would be replaced by a democratic assembly where every species had equal representation. A new charter would guarantee the rights of all civilizations to develop their technology and expand their territories. Most importantly, Earth would share selected architect technologies with all species, ensuring that no single power could dominate others. The knowledge would be distributed, gradually to prevent chaos but quickly enough to lift all civilizations toward their full potential. Dr. Wu Jin presented the scientific exchange program that would revolutionize galactic civilization. Within 50 years, every species in the galaxy will have access to technologies that seemed impossible a week ago. Space folding, matter conversion, energy manipulation at the quantum level. The golden age the architects dreamed of can finally begin. As the assembly concluded, Ambassador Neon looked around the chamber at faces that now showed respect instead of dismissal. The journey from ignored primitive to galactic leader had taken 50 years of careful planning and sacrifice. But humanity had proven that determination and ingenuity could overcome any odds. Captain Taehyun made the final statement to the assembly. The age of empires built on the suppression of others is ending. Today begins the age of cooperation, growth, and shared prosperity. Earth extends its hand in friendship to all who will work toward this better future. The vote was unanimous. 3,000 years of council rule ended with a simple voice vote, as even the former major powers accepted the new reality. They had no choice, but many were beginning to realize that the change might benefit everyone. Outside the chamber, Admiral Jamin's fleet maintained their peaceful but unmistakable presence. 47 ships that could appear anywhere in the galaxy ensured that the new order would be respected. But already the first joint research projects were being planned as former enemies began working together. The balance of power had not just shifted. It had been replaced entirely by a system where power was shared rather than hoarded. Humanity had emerged from the shadows to reshape galactic civilization according to principles of justice and equality. The stars themselves seemed brighter as billions of beings across the galaxy began to imagine possibilities that had been forbidden for millennia. The long night of oppression was ending, and a new dawn was rising over a transformed universe. Admiral Soman had never commanded such a massive fleet. 237 ships from 3 different species filled the space around her flagship. Korathan dreadnoughts bristled with heavy weapons designed to crack planets. Valerian cruisers hummed with energy shields that could deflect Starkiller missiles. Netherian mine ships carried psychic warriors capable of driving entire crews insane with a thought. Admiral, reported her tactical officer Jin Young, all fleet elements report ready for combat. We have the largest concentration of firepower in galactic history. Soman studied the holographic display showing the single Earth vessel waiting for them. The Retribution hung motionless in space, dark and silent like a predator waiting for prey to come close enough. Its massive hull dwarfed even her flagship, but one ship against an entire fleet seemed like suicide. Any response to our surrender demands? She asked. Communications Officer Seo-Yoon shook her head. Nothing, Admiral. They're maintaining radio silence. The final diplomatic talks had collapsed 3 hours earlier. Counselor Jinho's desperate peace proposal had been rejected by War Chief Kyung-min, who demanded the immediate surrender of all Earth vessels. The Council's pride could not accept that a primitive species had developed superior technology in secret. Captain Yeji of the Netherian mined ship Dreamwalker reached out with her psychic abilities, trying to probe the human crew's thoughts. But instead of the open mind she expected, she encountered mental defenses like walls of steel. Every human aboard the Retribution was shielded by discipline and training that made their thoughts unreadable. Admiral Soman, Yeji's voice came over the communication system. Their minds are completely protected. I cannot sense fear, doubt, or even basic emotions. They think like machines. On the science vessel Star Whisper, Dr. Minji continued recording data from a safe distance. Her sensors showed impossible readings from the Earthship, energy patterns that violated physics, gravitational distortions that should not exist, and weapon signatures that registered off the scale. Captain Deho, she reported, their power output is increasing. Whatever they're preparing, it's beyond anything in our databases. Deho watched the tactical display with growing unease. He had started this crisis by discovering the first Earth vessel. Now he was about to witness what might be the end of galactic civilization as they knew it. Admiral Soman made her final decision. All ships attack formation. Concentrate fire on the enemy vessel. Show them the might of the Galactic Council. The fleet opened fire with enough destructive power to shatter moons, energy beams that could melt asteroids, plasma bolts hot enough to ignite atmospheres, and kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed all converged on the Retribution. The barrage should have vaporized any ship ever built. Instead, the weapons passed through empty space where the Earth vessel had been moments before. The Retribution had simply moved sideways through folded space, appearing behind the Council formation. Impossible, shouted Captain Sunho from his new ship, replacing the one destroyed in the earlier demonstration. Nothing can move that fast. Chief Gunner Minho aboard the Retribution began his work with the calm precision of a master craftsman. His weapons did not rely on conventional physics. Instead, they reached across space and convinced targeted matter that it preferred to exist in a different state. The first Korathan dreadnought discovered that its armor suddenly wanted to be gas instead of solid metal. The massive warship expanded into a cloud of metallic vapor in seconds, its crew never understanding what had killed them. A Valyrian cruiser found its energy shields converted to solid crystal, which immediately shattered under the stress of containing plasma reactions. The ship tore itself apart from within as its own power systems became weapons against it. All ships evasive maneuvers, Admiral Sumin ordered, but her commands were meaningless against an enemy that could appear anywhere instantly. Engineer.
Heiyun managed the Retribution's power systems with the
skill of someone who had spent years learning to break universal laws. Her engines drew energy from the quantum foam that existed between atoms, providing essentially unlimited power. The ship's weapons could fire continuously without ever running out of ammunition or energy. Captain Wunki of the Korathan heavy cruiser Iron Fist tried to ram the Earth vessel, hoping to damage it through collision. But the Retribution folded space around itself, and Wunki found his ship flying through the position where his target had been while the enemy appeared above him. The human ship's response was swift and terrible. The Iron Fist discovered that the nuclear reactions in its power core suddenly preferred to happen all at once instead of gradually. The resulting explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Science officer Dongyun aboard the Star Whisper recorded data that would require rewriting every physics textbook in the galaxy. Captain, they're not just using advanced technology. They're treating space and time like tools. They're editing reality. The battle, if it could be called that, continued for 3 hours. The Council fleet had every advantage except the ones that mattered. They outnumbered the enemy 200 to 1. They had crews with centuries of combat experience. They possessed weapons that had conquered star systems. But the Retribution fought according to different rules. Its weapons convinced matter to change its fundamental properties. Its defenses folded attacks into pocket dimensions where they harmlessly dissipated. Its movement system allowed instant travel anywhere in the battle space. Captain Taehyun watched the destruction with no satisfaction. These were not evil beings he was fighting. Most of the Council fleet crews were good people serving their governments faithfully. But they represented a system that had suppressed humanity for 50 years, and countless other species for millennia. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Sung-Hwan, enemy fleet strength down to 47 vessels. Admiral Soman's flagship is requesting communication. Taehyun nodded. Put her through. Admiral Soman's face appeared on the screen. her proud features marked by defeat and confusion. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship showed sparks and emergency lighting.
Captain Taehyun,
I don't understand. How is this possible? Admiral, your species has spent 3,000 years perfecting technology within known limitations. Taehyun replied. Humanity discovered that the limitations themselves could be changed. Medical Officer Yuna reported from sickbay that they had taken no casualties. No council weapon had even touched their ship. The Retribution's defensive systems had simply folded hostile attacks into dimensions where they could cause no harm. Admiral, Taehyun continued, Earth offers terms for your surrender. Withdraw your remaining ships and we will allow them to leave safely. Continue fighting and we will be forced to complete their destruction. Soman looked at her tactical display showing the wreckage of nearly 200 ships. The finest military vessels in the galaxy had been systematically destroyed by a single enemy ship using technology that treated physics like suggestions rather than laws. I accept your terms, she said quietly. All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance. The surviving council vessels limped away from the battle zone, their crews staring in shock at the impossible defeat they had witnessed. Many of these ships had never retreated from any enemy. Now they fled from humans, a species most of them had barely heard of a week earlier. Captain Taehyun surveyed the debris field where the galaxy's mightiest fleet had been broken. Engineer G1 reported that their ship's systems were operating at peak efficiency. They had fought the largest space battle in recorded history and emerged without a scratch. Signal Earth Defense Command, Taehyun ordered. Phase 2 complete. We are ready to proceed to the final negotiations. The balance of power had not just shifted. It had been completely destroyed and rewritten in the space of a single afternoon. The three species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia now faced the reality that their reign was ending. A new power had risen from the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again.